I hope everyone enjoyed today. I thought I learned a lot. I can't believe 4 hours went by like that. It was wonderful. And I thought it'd be a fun way for us all to come together and talk about what we experienced today and to answer some of those questions in the Q&A. So if you have any questions for the speakers or is there anything you'd like us to talk about, send it over to the Q&A. This would be a fun little round. And I thought the first question that was submitted, which I thought was really appropriate, is, and some of you have already answered it directly, but if you could go back when you initially started your career to give yourself one best piece of advice, what would that advice be? And to kick it off, I have a story. And I remember it was a SourceCon conference like 12 years ago. And I had presented at SourceCon in the past, but for some reason, my nerves were more on edge than usual for this session. And I was just looking at the lineup and it had all the big names. Like half the people speaking were in this chat. My girl Carmen was speaking. Ronnie, you were speaking. Like everyone was there. And I was working for AIR's training at the time. And I apologize if I trained you guys back in the day, but I digress. And Laura Stoker, who was like the recruitment training czar in our space, looked at me and she goes, "Are you ready?" I was like, I said something like, I can't get up and speak to these people. And she like gave me like such a lashing I needed. And it's the advice I give people today. And it was, there is no difference between you and that person up on stage. You're just as good as them. In fact, you have more to share. And you have what people want to hear. She's like, so don't see people who are speaking at events, who are writing blogs, who are, constantly the loudest person in the room. Don't let them hijack what you have to share. And I will add to that, it's have the courage and have the ability, because I love Carmen's session, to simply just start sharing and start writing. That's how exactly where a lot of us got today, back when blogs were a big thing. And I think that like it's so intimidating to be a part of these events and these conferences and stuff like that and hearing the same people talk over and over again. And you kind of just need to take the leap and do so as well. So if you are interested in speaking or anything, I'm going to turn it over to someone else to give their best piece of advice. Please reach out to myself. Please reach out to Dan. We're happy to give you the platform to do so.
I'll do it.
I, Sorry, go ahead, Paul.
No, you first.
I was just going to add to that. Opportunities will come your way. People will ask you to do things that you've never done before, that you don't feel you have any ability to do. I was asked to be a manager early on in my career at Amazon, and I had not had ever had the thought that I could lead people. Just never occurred to me that I could even do the job. Now, it turns out there were a couple of people who needed to be fired, and that was my first order of business. But I said yes, and I managed to do what I needed to do. And from that point forward, if an opportunity came my way, I'd try. Sometimes I would not, do my very, very best. Sometimes it was a learning opportunity, and sometimes I would hit it out of the park. And so, whatever comes your way, say yes. If there's an idea that you have where you want to take it forward, go do it. Go try it. It won't hurt you. You will learn from it.
So you made it easier for me now because mine, what back to my quote of be kind to your shadow. When you mentioned during your session, Carmen, about, well, I'm paraphrasing, but you wrote your book and then like there were things you didn't like about it. So I think every one of us, since we did our session earlier today, have all gone back and said, well, I didn't say this and I wished I would have done that. And then like, I'm the only one who dropped an F-bomb. So is that good or bad? And like, I've been this hypercritical a-hole to myself. And that's the bit of advice I would do is I would say, just stop being so freaking hard on yourself. Like I said it in the chat, I think it was during your session though, it was, if all of us did the one of the things that we've been wanting to do for like years and we all just went and did it, how much awesome shit could come out of this day, this week, this month, this quarter, like, just go.
Just go do it. Go do it. And
I like
don't
what you're
feel as if you are unqualified. You're
Yeah.
uniquely qualified to write your own story, to tell your own story, to do something different. And I've seen it over and over and over.
Can I share something?
Yeah.
Ed Milet said you are uniquely qualified because of the life you've lived to give. And I listen to that podcast every day and it inspires me. But I want you to know how true that is. You are uniquely qualified because of who you are. Do not let imposter syndrome get you. It's going to stop you from being who you are. It's going to stop you from sharing your unique gifts. And that's a disservice to you and every other human being on this planet.
And so, and then I'll stop. I'll mute me in a second. But Erica, your comment, because you and I've we go back 15 years, and it's not, I get it. Erica stepped in to do a breakout session at SourceCon in Minneapolis because someone else wasn't able to make it. And Erica, I hope you will not punch me in the face when I say this, but you nearly hyperventilated in the beginning and it looked like you were going to puke. And at the end, you freaking nailed it. Everybody said you nailed it. And everybody said it was one of the best sessions of SourceCon. I know it's easier said than done, but you did it. You helped others see that they can do it too. And I think that, again, Erica, you would never allow me. It's this, we would not allow someone to be thinking that way, but we would do it to ourselves.
Yeah.
All right. So I think with that, that sets up the next question quite well. How exactly do you transition from a sourcer to a recruiter?
Or vice versa, huh?
I'll go for that one because I have a different philosophy than that. I know most people are hired in this day and age as into sourcing because they feel like it's the beginning of your career. But my philosophy is you should be a recruiter and experience the pain, and I emphasize the pain of a full life cycle recruiter.
Mm-hmm.
Because as a sourcer, you need to understand that you're there to help support that other process of recruiting. And that's just probably my old school mentality. I know that a lot of people are hired into this role and then they move into recruiting. So I would definitely partner with a senior recruiter to get all those pain points out. I feel like the best recruiters out there are actually really good sourcers as well, and they can do it all. So I'll give that and let somebody else.
Can I add to that real quick?
Oh, yeah.
It's okay to be a recruiter or a sourcer, and you can go back and forth between the two options. But let me add something else to that. If you're looking in your career and you're kind of in transition right now, look at the ecosystem that supports all of those roles. Like the technology companies have amazing solution consultant roles where they need a recruiter or a sourcer who have the insights to help their customers. So don't be afraid to look at that route either. As I learned from ADP, I had a lot of colleagues that went from recruiting into the support infrastructure for the HR world. Not a bad thing. It's a good thing.
And the other thing that I want to add to this is if you are a sourcer, don't you dare let anyone treat you like you're a second class citizen.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's just too much of that.
Amen.
And the way that I look at it, when I look at how hiring seasons, employment cycles have happened and that sort of thing, I don't care if it's like the .com bust, the Great Recession, the Great Stay, whatever it is, there is one principle that's always going to be the same, and that is that a good, strong candidate is what's going to bring power and life to your job order if you're on the agency side, or to an internal job that you're recruiting for if you're sitting on the corporate side.
Mm-hmm.
That's never going to change. The world can blow up and be taken over by zombies tomorrow. And that is never going to change. So don't ever let some recruiter that couldn't find uh, couldn't find anything in a paper bag, and I'm trying to be polite. But don't ever let them try to make you seem like you're you're lower than dirt, you're no better than an amoeba because you are a sorcerer. And if you choose that life to be a sorcerer, you're just as valuable, and I would say even more valuable than this recruiter that's just kind of like hunting around on LinkedIn and thinking they're good and they're great because they're getting people applying directly to their requisitions. To me, that's not recruiting. I mean, it's part of the process, but it is not recruiting. And as we all well know, you've got candidates coming in, you've got the dog catcher, you've got the Uber driver, and they're applying for VP roles. So just because you have the luxury to kind of sit back and, oh, I'm just going to see who applies, that doesn't make you any better than the sorcerer who not only is going to scrap and bite and scratch and hunt, but now that we're having to get on the phone and talk to people and send them Calendly links and that sort of thing, we have grown to be streetwise enough to know when somebody's like telling us some crap that is not true, or they're a legitimate candidate. And Mr. Recruiter, they're just going to be, oh, I'm just so happy. It's like, no, because we're so used to being in an environment where we're being taught to think that we're second class citizens, that we know we got to get somebody that's like 100% or close or 90 or whatever. We know we got to get that person in from the jump. That's the pressure that's on us. So don't let them put you into that box because it's not true.
And
Something
recruiters
we
are
all,
not junior sourcers.
well,
That's right.
Or the other way around. Sourcers are not
Right,
junior
right.
recruiters.
Here's the perspective. We all know every journey begins with the first step. Every hire begins with a person. Oh, your sourcer, you found that person. Okay, then. There's your entree into recruiting.
there's a word that we all need to stop using anyway. Whether we're recruiters or sorcerers, we have to stop using the word just.
Yes.
We are not just a recruiter. We are not
Yes.
just a sorcerer. And I swear the next time I see someone do it, I'm going to either call them out or punch
Yes.
them in the shoulder. Stop. I'm going to drop that.
Yes. Repeat
when
that.
when the
Stop
online
using the word just.
just
I love that.
when the online communities began back in the late 90s, there was no delineation between the two. I don't know who was born. No one was born here. Dan, you
I
were.
was born.
Sorry, Jeremy, I have pictures.
I'm old as fuck, dude.
No, you don't. I have the picture of you without the beard.
I don't look old, but I am really old. Ask Jerry Crispin. He's in chat. He knows when I was born.
Yeah, but I'm glad Jerry's here. Jerry, if you're a fan of the movie Shawshank Redemption, you know the prison yard that's the top step sits. Jerry is red. He is that character. Just so everyone knows. But when we started online, there was no delineation, and we started getting the feels, Carmen, somewhere roughly 2005, 2006. And that's, Jeremy, you'll vouch for that one too.
I'm vouching.
Hush. And then, but then it started taking off, and we, as the source profession, matured substantially faster, and became more aware of all the elements around it that impacted really great hiring. So for that and that alone, if you can understand, if your foundation elements are solid, and all the foundation elements of great sourcing or great recruiting are curious enough, they're not based in technology, they're based in knowledge, they're based in process, they're based in humanity. And those skills are transferable whether you want to source, recruit, brand, hire, it doesn't matter. They're all the same.
All right, we have another question. This is a good one. Mr. Steve Levy mentioned that culture fit is a bias. Could Steve please elaborate on why it's a bias? Shouldn't it be part of our screening process to determine if the candidate is the right match for the team they will be joining, and vice versa? I'm going to argue that it is important.
Yeah, Jan, is that thanks for the question. Let me ask everybody here. Show of hands by every window here. Carmen, you already know I'm going to get ugly with this one. I think you already know. Show of hands by everybody here. How many people have been into a debrief meeting where some manager says, I just don't think the person's going to be a culture fit. Okay. Kelly, I'm also in the chat. Fabulous. Okay. Since I love being part of debriefs, I asked the question. This has happened many, many years ago, and it was actually part of a bar raiser question I had, Carmen, at Amazon from a person I think we discussed a long, long time ago. And I said, well, that hasn't happened in 16 years, because I would ask someone would say that, I go, okay, I just want to know, what question did you ask to determine that? And what was the person's answer? And they go, well, I didn't really ask a question. It was just feeling that I had. And I said that, did you have like a bad burrito for lunch? You have indigestion? What is it? You start pushing back, and you start with the premise that half the people are going to see your point and half aren't. So the point is about likability. I don't know how likable I am in an interview. I probably come across as an arrogant dumbass or something like that. We all do at some point or another. So how does a person know that they're who are they seeing when they determine this thing called likability or culture fit? Well, I didn't like my baseball question.
So you're 100% spot on, Steve. I'm going to give away probably about $20,000-$30,000 worth of recruiting toolbox consulting advice right about now. There's no such thing as culture fit. Usually when people are saying that, you can actually get them to direct their questions back to something specific and measurable.
Yep.
Is it that they don't have the ability to speak up to leadership? Is it that they are great at or not great at leading discussions about something that's gone wrong? Really uncovering what culture fit means. That's your job in the moment. When someone brings up culture fit, toss that out and say, what do you mean specifically by that? And then take that and apply that to your rec. And then you have to make sure that you are assessing every candidate, not just that candidate, but every candidate against those standards. If not, your complete interview has been screwed up. So really starting with, what do we mean by, quote, culture fit? There's no meaning to that, because what the hell does that mean? But there are specific qualities or competencies or ways of behaving in an organization that are going to be specific to your environment. So figuring out what those are in advance and interviewing against that versus something generic like culture fit is always going to help you.
And this is
And to
the
take
part
that-
that we start being talent
not-
advisors.
Yeah.
Well, we'll get that,
And
but
that's
to
it.
take,
Yeah,
that's
to
it.
take that to the next level.
I think too, you guys, it's not necessarily culture fit, it's leadership fit. And what I mean by that, I think as recruiters, it's extremely important to know the hiring manager well, to determine if that candidate wants to put up with that leadership style of that particular individual, right? For example,
Or even
it's like
of the position, or what's needed for the
Yes.
position.
Yeah.
And
what is
so
it
that person
position?
can compare their
Mhm.
style to what you actually need. Or so
Because
that
I
you
love
as the
hiring people on my team that like challenge me, that are different and stuff like that too. But I also know a lot of people, Dan, shut your mouth, because people aren't gonna survive underneath me, you know? And it's like, so to me, it's like, is that culture? No. But it's like it's a leadership thing, right? It's like so I expect the recruiters to know, like, this is how Shannon manages her team. This is what she expects. And so like I love my recruiters so, like, I remember the final slate of the last interview with Can she have, the recruiter said, dude, she goes, all these people are going to work so well for you. And that was like the perfect thing. But like when you get in that thing and like you're like, you say things, Steve, like, this person's not going to be a culture fit. It's like, I love what you got to challenge that. And what does that mean? And why aren't they a culture fit?
Can I
Right?
make a
Is it
quick-
your problem or is it their problem?
Yeah, to two things, to dovetail off of what both you and Carmen and others here know. One of the toughest things to do in recruiting is to create really an assessment rubric that puts all the interviewers, they don't have to be sitting at the same table, but at least be in the same room. And that means defining the critical performance related constructs and what it means, minimal, basic, strong, superb, and then giving people, iteratively develop it with people's input. No, they don't have to agree on it. I'll share things that I've written with anybody. If you want them, just ask me, and I'll send you how these things look. Of course, sweetie. That's
Will you share your list of 49 or 130
43.
newsletters
I
that
absolutely.
you, please, I would love that because I love newsletters, but I go through.
I actually started putting some of them in the chat, but they're
No, I want a list. I just
I'll give you
write
a
a
list.
post.
Just so you know,
Yeah.
what I do is, and this is where sourcing skills come in handy. Because self-learning is it's life. I have the benefit of living, a mile plus away from Red. It's top shelf for Shawshank Redemption, Jerry Crispin. And I go in and I listen to him and I learn. I wasn't always like that.
Jerry is a newsletter, by the way.
Yes.
Can I say one thing with a parting shot here real quick? Because I have to jump too, but
Good luck.
You can't be an order taker. You
Go,
have
Mike.
you have to push back, and it's like peeling an onion with your hiring managers. Ask good questions, relevant questions, do your research ahead of time. And that is so powerful. Going back to what Carmen was saying, being that talent advisor, you got to have that hat on every time, and you got to ask them good questions. Then shut up and listen.
Good luck, Mike.
That's my parting thought. See you all later.
Don't knock him dead, Mike.
And let's finish with that. If you guys all could, I'll call on you. Or actually, you know what? Let's just play. I will call on the first person. Let's just parting advice, last thing you want to end with, and then we'll call it a day. So Steve, I gave my advice earlier, which is that you are a badass and just listen to yourself and don't be intimidated. That's my advice. Steve, why don't you give some advice and call on someone next?
My advice is be kind to someone who makes your blood boil. Find a way to get the temperature down a little bit. Popcorn over to Nick.
I think just what I talked about, like you need to meet more people, get out there. I think I'm playing catch up from the past 12 and a half years of working at Google. And I just was really lucky to meet Steve and the rest of the Hire Easy family. But just push yourself, do the hard things, talk to as many people because we do want to help, right? Like people do want to help you. I'll kick it to Daniel.
I think the one piece of advice is build relationships within this industry that extends farther than a like or a comment on social media. Reach out, pick up the phone. We're all sourcers. Do a little FaceTime like Steve Levy style and build relationships that extend farther than social media. I'll kick it over to Carmen.
I would say for my parting set of advice, do things, try things that you think or fear or suspect that you might not be good at because you just don't know until you've tried it. And sometimes you learn just how bad you are at it. And sometimes you learn, whoa, I'm not so bad at that. And that's something else I can add to my toolbox. So I am a big believer in that. I think I will turn it over to Ronnie.
Thanks, Carmen. So I was pondering this thought, and I'm probably going to integrate what everybody has said here, or each sentence you said. Back when I first started, I'm in Atlanta. It's like this hub of amazing talent of people. And when I was in the staffing industry back then, I had them at the belt to go to a conference, and I couldn't go because they wouldn't send me. But I did everything in my possibility to meet these people in Atlanta and grow my network. And I did that. And then as my career grew and I finally branched out to my own company and started to be able to afford to go to a conference and teach myself and learn and network, and I'm sitting amongst a bunch of you on the screen right now has been a big part of my career. So number one, I'm fathomed just to be on this screen, and thinking of my career, my long life. Wow, look at me! Look what I've done, and I'm still being invited and still trying to innovate myself. So I'll just put it in a nutshell: network, invest in yourself, become friends. They're not just your peers; these are friends. They're your emotional support system, as Mike talked about earlier. We're here to help each other, and we want to grow this community. And we have done that, and we'll hopefully continue that legacy long as we live, and as we all move along, the younger generation will continue to support that. I'll leave it at that. I need to pass that to, how about Jer, man?
Well, I would say don't give up. I mean, some of these things take years. So don't give up if you are trying to start your own business. Don't give up if you're trying to break into HR from TA or vice versa. Don't give up if you're trying to network and come and learn. Just don't give up. And I think I'll pass it to Paul.
It's just I'm a one beat drummer lately. Like, just go do the thing. Like, the worst, you've all said it. Like, the worst thing it's just not gonna work. Here's the thing. I have spent so much time the last 5 years not doing the things that has eaten up my brain power. That to just go throw it out there and either A, create some free time in this brain of mine, or two, then go work on the next thing. Like, I think that we've all talked ourselves out of this stuff so much. I would just like to see what we all start creating together. I think I'm the last one, right?
Yep.
So Shannon, that's you.
All right. Well, thank you guys for those who stayed on. We will be doing this again in about 2 weeks on February 2nd, where all the speakers are going to be currently transitioning to their next recruiting jobs. So super excited to bring you the next lineup. And Dan, would you like to say a few things about it before we leave?
Community is everything here at Hire Easy, and we want to bridge the gap with active seekers with their next opportunity. So if you're hiring, join. If you want to support the next generation of sourcers and recruiters, that's what this is all about. Please attend, share with your network, and we'll probably continue to do this to give them a spotlight to share their story. And that's what it's all about.
Thank you guys. We'll see you at the next one.